Hello, figments of my imagination. A few days ago, Modern Horizon leaks forced Wizards to spoil a bunch of cards early. Of those, by far the one with the most discourse is Ugin's Labyrinth, which is either one of the most broken lands ever, or a flaming pile of garbage depending on who you ask. So, who's right? Should you rush to shell out over $200 for your playset of this obviously busted new Modern staple? Well, that answer should always be no, but MTG finance theory aside, the hype for this card is way too overblown. As is often the case with preview cards, players become obsessed with the best case scenarios, and tend to compare new cards to older, similar cards. Here, the most common comparisons are Ancient Tomb and Chrome Mox, but Labyrinth is significantly weaker than either of them. Ancient Tomb has basically no drawback, and while Chrome Mox also requires an imprint, it doesn't count as a land drop, can provide colored mana, and the imprinted card isn't nearly as restricted. Now, obviously Ugin's Labyrinth has to be weaker than these not-modern legal options, and there still is plenty of room to be worse than Ancient Tomb and still be broken. But I think people are underestimating the restrictions on deck building Labyrinth requires. The three best contenders I've seen in Modern to use this land are Eldrazi Aggro, Tron, and Affinity. Eldrazi only runs 4, 5, 7+ drops, clearly not enough to reliably power even one copy of Labyrinth. Tron is in the same boat, but could be modified to maybe have up to 8, but that's still not enough. Affinity runs 8 standard, and I could see a few ways to up that to 12, but again, this just isn't enough, ignoring how much it messes with the deck's composition. To put it in perspective, most Legacy players will tell you a deck needs at least 16 blue cards to run Force of Will and reliably cast it. I feel like Labyrinth should probably follow a similar rule, and as the Modern card pool and metagame stands now, that just isn't feasible. Honestly, I feel like that's enough reason to end the conversation and resign Labyrinth to being a $5 niche EDH mythic. But just to be sure, let's talk about the other major downside, the card disadvantage. Modern is full of ways to punish non-basic lands, from Field of Ruin to Fulminator Mage, and of course the big boogeyman, Blood Moon. And while that threat is obvious, you lose your land and your 7-drop, the equally punishing and more commonly played problem is actually Grief in the Lake. The dream scenario is obviously playing Labyrinth against these types of decks to protect your 7-drop while also ramping into whatever you draw. And I'm sure that will happen, but the more likely scenario probably involves your opponent taking your 7-drop so your land doesn't work, or just ignoring your slightly accelerated mana in favor of stripping what little gas you have left. That being said, picturing a world where you crop rotation in response to a Thoughtseize, grab Labyrinth, and tuck your game-winning Ulamog or whatever is hilarious. On a more positive note, the one thing Labyrinth can do that is currently almost impossible in Modern is play Chalice of the Void for 1 on turn 1. So if it does see play, I assume it will involve that interaction. And that's it. Rant over. Barring some really impressive enabling being printed in Modern Horizons 3, I doubt this will actually see play, and I'd be surprised if it was worth more than $10 this time next year. Wait, it is a mythic, so probably like $15. Either way, do yourself a favor and don't buy this. If you open it, sell it while you can. It's times like this I wish I could buy puts on Magic cards because this thing is headed straight to the ground. It definitely doesn't warrant the $50+ price tag on TCG Player. Anyways, do YouTube stuff, remember to tell me my opinions are wrong, and I'll see you all eventually.